jump into negotiations again today. Last week, we kind of jumped into some pretty cool, important things. We kind of, played an FBI investigator who's also a body language expert. And I hope you learned a lot from that, just to kind of show that the difference between being a criminal investigator and being a sales person are extremely similar, like crazy similar, right? It was so similar that the techniques were almost exact, almost crazy exact. You agree? So we're going to continue this a little bit more today. We're going to jump into some specific negotiation strategies. So I remember in high school, right out of high school, I remember a kid, a friend of mine, was so cocky on how he just got a killer deal on this car from this dealership, and how this dealership, he totally took him. And oh my gosh, I wasn't gonna let him get away. I mean, yada, yada, yada. If you're a man, I hate to say it, you've probably heard that before. Guys typically do that. They want to be known as the big shot negotiator and make their spouse or their girlfriend or fiance or somebody be like, man, yeah, I got us a killer deal on that. I don't know how many times I've told my wife, yeah, I bought this thing. I got a good deal on it. I got a good deal on it. She's like, you're not fooling me. I've listened to you coaching so many times. You're not fooling me. Gosh, man, it works for others. Why can't they fool you, honey? So the negotiation tactics there as a sales professional that you are, you need to be on your A game. You need to make sure you're not that guy that just thinks you can, just take anybody, because that's not the truth. It's not how it happens. I'm going to talk about three different types of negotiation tactics, of methods, three different types of methods. But hopefully you're probably already doing maybe some of them, but you didn't realize the rhyme or reason why you do it that way. Didn't realize and to sharpen those skills, we got to remember, as the business professional, we're not letting our clients lead this process. We're helping them. We're supposed to be the experts, have the expertise to help them. So when we do that, are we actually letting them run the table, or are we running the table? Explaining them these methods. And I'm going to give you copies of this today, so that you can actually share these with your clients and show them, look, at these are the type of methods of my expertise that we use in negotiating your transactions. You could do that. You can literally show it to them and say, we're not just fly by night. This is why you hire me. You hire me because of this. This is what I'm good at. This is what I like. I always tell sellers that I just need two people. And I always make them laugh when I say this, because it's so much more to it. I don't need two people. I just need one person, right? But if I get one person, am I just going to accept it because it's the best offer? If you're telling your clients that, hey, it's the only offer we have, we kind of have to just go with it. If you're doing that, you're failing your client, especially in this market, guys. And this market right here is the market you can negotiate and use these tactics more than ever. Because if you only get one offer, what are you just going to accept it, or are you going to work it? And I'll show you how to work that. Show you here in a second how to work that. Now, usually we start out with the meet in the middle module or method, because it's really not meet in the middle. It's kind of we're always trying to think ahead. As the expertise, we have to have the brain to think ahead. That's how professional and crazy expert we are in this business. Because we've got to think, okay, so if it's meet in the middle, and say $100,000 and $50,000 is the middle. If I'm representing the seller, 50 is not really the middle, right? So let's just do a better one. Let's say $200,000, they offer $100,000. Is the middle 150? If I'm the seller's agent, no, it's not. Middle of the middle is 175, because my job is to always try to get my seller more. And if I'm the buyer's agent, vice versa. The middle I'm trying to get him to is 125, not 150, okay? Because it's the middle of the middle. And I'll show you a graph and we'll explain that one out a little more. But before we do that, I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to show you how we're going to use a little bit of AI to explain some really cool books. If you guys aren't on Whoozy.ai, let me give you something real quick. Let's see, copy. And this was shared to both Legacy Real Estate and Homes of Idaho. They've done some trainings on this. If you didn't get on it, boy, this is really cool. I just shared in the group chat, just shared a link for you to get in there and get, oh, it didn't like, when it did it, it had, because there was a question mark, you got to copy that whole thing. For some reason, it didn't like make it all a clickable thing. You got to copy it and paste it. It only made the clickable the first part about that. Sorry about that. I don't know why it does that, but I've seen it do that before. But if you use uppercase S save 25, you get 25% off. And this is really cool because it shows several different, so these are all the different ones it's using. So if you're spending 25 bucks right now on ChatGPT, you can get all of these, and you're spending 25 bucks on this one and 25 bucks on this one, 20 bucks on, if you're spending money on all these, you get them all in one section here. It's really kind of neat. But what I use, I don't use this very often, the SparkPad. I use the Satori. The Satori is really cool. I don't know if you've seen it or played around with this. If you have, great. It's really cool. I mean, it's like, I call it like using like Tony Stark. I call it like Tony Stark. So if you know how Tony Stark moves things around, you know, in his cool little downstairs basement office in his billion-dollar house, that's kind of what it's all about. I kind of did this already, but I'm going to do it again. So you can search books. So never split the difference. And it'll find it. And now here's my Tony Stark. I get to kind of move it around, and then I get to grab this little thing and drag it over here. And I was to say, read this book and give me a quick, short breakdown of the book, whatever, right? And it's going to quickly read that book, and it's going to break it down. And I could throw other things in here too. Like if I want to throw a YouTube video in here, I can throw a YouTube video in there, and it'll watch the video. It's really kind of neat. But this talks about this book, Never Split the Difference, an excellent book by Chris Voss. Chris Voss is a retired law enforcement officer. Let's see, he says he is a book that delivers art of negotiations. Excellent book provides practical techniques and strategies to negotiating. If I click over here on this one I did earlier, it said, Chris Voss is a former FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator. Wow. Who's applied his negotiation techniques across various fields, including business and education. So you see it kind of did more and more. When I scroll down here, though, now I'm going to say that in this book, the author talks about the Ackerman method of negotiations. Explain this method. All right. So here's the cool part. Okay, so the acronym method is a pretty cool method. Usually we start at the meet in the middle, but instead I'm going to go straight into the acronym method of negotiations. It's about creating a target price, right? So if I'm the buyer and I'm stepping in there and I'm like, okay, so this property is listed at $450,000, okay? Now there's some percentages I'm going to use. He recommends 65% is to set your first. 65% is going to be your first. Calculating 3 raised increments from 65% to 85% to 95% to 100%. So it kind of goes through there. Brian Eisenhower, he learned from his dad. His dad taught him this method, but it's a little different the way his dad taught it. Is his dad used it 85%, 92%, 98%, and 100%. Right. So taking the different percentages you're figuring out what you want to offer on your first offer. So let's just use $100,000 on this one. Okay, so $100,000, my first offer is going to be $65,000. Okay, $65,000 gonna be my first offer. Seems like quite a bit low. Okay, seems pretty low, right? And most of you are gonna be like, or you think your seller's gonna be like, no, I'm not, no, I'm just not even gonna answer that offer. Remember the important rule. You're the expert. You need to lead them and help them make wise decisions. It's never a wise decision to not counter an offer. Any offer, we always counter. Now, I've had people come back and say, hey, let's just, if anything, just counter full price, just full price. Fail, okay? Is that an option? Yeah, but that's not what we're doing here. We're teaching. So that's when you can pull out this really cool little handy dandy thing. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and share it right now. This cool little form here, we'll use the ICC, Brian Eisenhower's method. And we'll read this to them and show it to them. Look, all right, every offer's got a way to go. You know, this may not work out. This is the only offer we have, okay? So let's strategically counter this offer. Now, I understand that you don't like it, and I understand you're angry and upset that this was a crazy lowball offer. I understand that, okay? But just understand that it's the only offer we have. So let's counter them. So let's figure out a hard number, a target price that you want for this property. Okay, so let's say, you know, you told me before we started that, you know what, you want to start a little high. So you feel like we're a little high. Okay, so say you're okay with selling this property for 450,000. Okay, and they came in really low, right? So what are we going to do? Let's figure out, you know, we want to get at 450,000. So let's do a calculation. All right, so that's if it was a seller. All right, so we want to make sure the seller is willing to negotiate. But if you're the buyer's agent, and this one is based on the buyer's agent right here, and the buyer's agent says, hey, I don't want to pay any more than 450,000 for this property. I know it's at 500, but that's my best. I can't go any higher because my lender won't let me go any higher. Okay. Well, we know the 450,000 is $50,000 off, and it's probably not going to work. Most likely the seller's not going to drop it $50,000 just off the bat. Maybe it's a brand new house that just hit the market. All right. And you're like, you know, the best I can do is 450. Is it too early to write an offer? Should we watch it and see what happens? No, let's write an offer. Let's use a technique known as the acronym method or the Eisenhower method. Eisenhower, either one. Right. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to take 85%. 85%. That means our first offer is going to be $382,500 on a $500,000 price. Now, if they're any bit of a good real estate agent, and think about this, guys, if you're typically a seller's agent, be a good real estate agent. Don't be an average one, okay? Don't not counter an offer at $382,500. Counter them, right? There's a reason, right? Reason for it. And if you're a buyer's agent, you write that offer, say, hey, I'm coming in with an offer. It is quite a bit lower, $130,000, $20,000 low. Okay. Just want you to know they're willing to negotiate. They want to negotiate. Right. I understand you don't have any offers on this property right now. So let's negotiate for our clients a little bit. Encourage your seller to submit an offer or to submit a counter offer. So what's going to happen? Either that offer seller's going to go because they don't know how to negotiate. They didn't show up to this class today. So they're going to turn around and say, okay, let's just counter offer full price, $500,000, or let's drop it $495,000. There's our counter offer, $495,000. Okay, we're in the game. We got a counter offer. The most counter offers I've ever done so far to date was about 8. All right, and I'm going to tell you the story. It was a meet in the middle situation. But my good friend, his name is Pat O'Donohoe. He was a police officer for Tulare Police Department, and the property was listed at $400,000, which was unheard of for that city at the time. It was really high. It was probably about $300,000 over average median sales price in the city. Yeah, it was really like a $200,000 median sales price was the median sales price. So we're talking a double what the median sales price is, $400,000. He says, I will only pay $350 for this property. So what should we do? And I said, well, let's offer $300,000 then. So we offered 300,000. We went back and forth so many times, we eventually got the property for 440. So who won? We did. Because the middle constantly moves, and we'll go over that one in a minute. But we did the meet in the middle method. So in this case, we're not talking the meet in the middle, we're talking a percentage. So 85% is your first counter. Okay, so we're going to come back. First one, we're going to come back at now 92%. Okay, 92%. So 92% is going to mean we're going to come up. So we're up to 414,000 so far. Now, if you're the seller's agent, so far you've made your client money. And you got to remember this stuff. You got to tell your seller that. All right, so they came in at 382. So 382, 414, that's about $35,000 more. Is that about right? 35, give or take, somewhere around there, 30 to $40,000. I've made you so far on this first offer. So we've made like almost $40,000 on this first. So far, we've only countered twice. All right, so 414,000. The seller's going to say, all right, I'm willing to come down a little more, so we're going to come down 485. So the seller's not really using any specific negotiation method. See it? All three of those. The buyer's using the percentage method. So, okay, we're at 485 now. So now we're going to jump up to the 98%. And literally their seller has seen this form, so they understand it now. 98% is going to be my counter. How much of an expert do you look like when you're actually being this specific with your negotiations on just one offer, one lowball offer we got so far? Oh man, you're going to be looking good. So as the buyer though, they're understanding that what I'm doing though, they can see what I'm doing here. Okay, 98,000, got it. All right, so now we're going to come in at 98%, we're going to come in at 441,000. By golly, that seller's thinking, we're bringing them up. Look at how much we've brought them up so far. The seller's all happy with the, okay, we're bringing them up. We're slowly bringing them up. All right, I'll go down a little more. So I'm going to come down to 475. All right, so far they're off by 25,000. They've reduced their price. So the buyer's doing pretty good so far, with the seller even realizing it. Now, the final offer that he's going to come with it is 100% of what that percentage was, which now the new established rate is now 475. So now we're up to 100% would be 449,357. Now, here's an important thing to remember. And I had forgot about this until one of my, when I had this conversation with one of my investors the other day. She said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to come in with a counter offer of, let's just say 449,357. And I'm like, oh, that's an odd number. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. And she goes, yeah, it's something we do. Well, that's actually right out of the book, Never Split the Difference. Is right out of there. It talks about that. It says that, let's see, 100% throwing in non-monetary, use a precise non-round number for your final 100% offer. For example, 237,893 instead of 240. Why do we do that? Well, she mentioned because it makes them think that, that's our absolute top number we can come up with. We're like stretched. It's a great method. Oh man, that's as high as you can. Oh, that's very specific. Number 449,357. That's a specific number. They must be tapped out. And when she said that, I'm like, gosh, that sounds familiar. But when I went back through this and started looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's because that's an acronym method. I forgot about it. Holy mackerel. That is a specific number, and it's specifically used to try to make them think that, hey, we kind of, that's as high as we're able to go. So, and I did invite them to jump in here today, so I think they are on here. You guys reminded me, if you're on here, I invited the investors in here today. You reminded me that when I reread this in here, I'm like, oh shoot, that is right out of our acronym method. So it's a great method. It's a great way to do it. It's a great opportunity for you to be able to impress your buyers and sellers, to show them that you understand negotiations. All right. All right. So we're going to jump over to the meet in the middle method now. Meet in the middle method. And that one's more kind of, I want you to realize that what you're trying to do is your middle you need to think on your feet on this, guys. Your middle is not exactly the middle. Right. So assume that you represent the seller here and you have a list price of $600,000. Okay. And an offer comes in at 500. Your middle is 550. All right, but that's not my middle if I'm representing the seller. That's not your middle. And your goal is to get your seller more every time. Buyer to get the buyer less the other time. And the winner is going to be the one that meets in the end. So we have $600,000, 500,000, the middle is 550. So what is my true middle? 575. All right, so my goal is to get higher than 575. So my counter, my offer is that my counter is going to be 585. I'm going to be higher than my middle, and this is my middle of the middle. Let's just call it the middle of the middle. So I'm going to go higher. So I'm at 585. So I dropped a bit. Yeah, I have. All right. So now we're going to go with our counter offer number 2 we have is going to come up to 515. So if I'm the buyer's agent, my goal is not to come up with that. So my middle is going to change again. So now I'm at 515. My new middle is 560. Okay. So my counter as the selling agent, is it going to be 572, 550, which is the exact middle of that? No, it's going to be above it. So I'm going to come in at 585. So now my middle keeps changing, as you can tell. But as the seller's agent, I'm constantly going to be jumping into another realm. Complete another realm of a higher middle. Buyer's agent, you're in another realm of the lower middle. So the middle is a constantly moving, constantly changing place where you're going to completely be moving it to a different level. Does that make sense on the middle, meet in the middle? And most of you have been probably thinking, okay, so the middle is 550. No, the middle is not 550. The middle is the middle of that middle if I'm the listing agent, the middle of the middle if I'm the buyer's agent. So it keeps moving and keeps changing. The middle is going to keep going and going. So I'm constantly. So in the end, if I end up selling it for 567, 500, I won because I'm higher than 550. That makes sense? All right. So I'm going to show you one other thing here because there's one more method to this. All right. So this is something that I've done. I think we started this back in, I think it was right around 2012, 13, 2012, 2013. Actually, it was a little before that because it started when we started having a frenzy shifting into a seller's market. So maybe 2013, 2014, somewhere around there, shifted back to a seller's market after the crash. And we started seeing a lot more offers coming in. Now, actually, it did start earlier than that because it started during the short sell push because we would list prices so low for short sells that we would get so many offers that we would just counter them all what we call highest and best. Now, don't cheat on the highest and best. That's the one thing I want to make sure you don't do. If you've got one offer, use the acronym method, use the meet in the middle method, do that. Don't just say, and I'm sorry, 2 offers. If you get 2 offers, don't just say, oh, let's just do highest and best every time. No, use it if you have a bunch of offers. If you have 3 or more, all right, 2 offers, you can use a multiple counter offer form and you can counter. So this is an important thing to remember as well, guys, because I've heard a few agents recently say this and they didn't get it. If you send the regular counter offer to 2 different people, this is an important thing, okay? This will really screw your deals up. You send 2 different regular counter offers to 2 different people and they both sign it, you just wrote a contract for 2 different buyers. And can you do that? You want to talk about getting yourself into civil liability and some trouble? That's going to happen, right? You're going to have to try to figure out how to fix that problem. And you get with your broker to get that fixed because you just made a huge mistake. You've got to use the multiple counter offer form because now it's not a contract unless it comes back to your seller. Seller gets to make the final choice and then they can turn around and counter it again if they want at that point using another multiple counter offer form. They can do that as many times as they want. It's never a contract. Seller has last right. Last decision, the ball always ends in the seller's court when you use the multiple counter offer form. So send them both, the multiple counter with 2 totally different ones, or you can send the same one and see what you get back. And then from there, if you get counters, counter the best one at that point in time or counter them both again, right? Just don't send the regular counter offer to both. That's only for individual single counter offers, okay? So if you get 2 offers, counter them both. two totally different things or the same thing, and see if you can get them to fight against each other a little bit. And then now the seller gets to choose what they want to do after that, counter them again or do something different. If you get 3 or more counters, the highest and best is a great tool to use, right? And this is how I have sent it in counter offers, but what I found is that if you send it in a counter offer to multiple people and it says, hey, this is the highest and best, sellers receive multiple offers on this property and suggest all buyers submit their highest and best at this time, take into consideration this, and this. And if they were to say that, and then now somebody just sends you an addendum or counter offer number 3, now we're missing a form in between potentially. So I like to put it in an email. And I like to outline exactly how I'd like to have it back. Now I still have people that come back, especially you guys in California, because you have counter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In Idaho's a little better, a little easier because we just have one counter and you write in what number it is and you write in what you're doing. In California, and so one counter, you don't have like one form does buyer and seller, is what I'm saying. In California, you have seller counter, you have a buyer counter. They're 2 different forms and they all have to be in line. They all have to be signed by the seller with a checkbox that says subject to attached counter, subject to attached counter. And so they're all, in Idaho, it's a little easier. You just don't sign that counter if you don't like it and you send a whole new one. So it works a lot much better over in Idaho. But if I still have had people do this where I send this email out and people respond back with a counter offer. And it's like, shoot, now we got to draw up another form and fill the gap. That's for California. In Idaho, you don't have to do that. In California, you have to draw up another form and fill the gap. It's a pain in the rear. So I like to outline it really easily. And I say in an email to everybody, and I blind carbon copy. See blind carbon copy right here? I blind carbon copy all the buyers. And I just send it to myself. So I send it to myself and I blind carbon copied everybody else. And I say, hello. This is email going out to 4. I don't have to do that, but I just wanted to make sure they know how much competition they have. So you better bring it, right? Better bring it because you got 4 offers on this one. Sellers received a total of 4 offers, requested the buyers submit their highest and best offer at this time. Take into consideration a few items: offer price, amount buyers willing to pay the gap on a low appraisal situation of financing. Look at the date. What was going on during that time? We were dealing with multiple offers, I mean, I think the most I ever got on one deal was about 35 offers on one overpriced property. It was overpriced and 35 offers to the point that we were just stacking up FHA, conventional, cash. FHA, let's throw those in the garbage. We're just going to answer these right here. These are your conventional and cash. Let's flip those through. That's how bad it got. Holy mackerel. So this was actually only 4, but that's a good one. All right. So take into consideration these items. So right now, what would you be looking like? Right now, in this type of market we're in right now, you might only be getting 1 or 2, maybe 3. If you do get 3 or more, it's a great little option for you to do this. Just don't get lazy and use highest and best when you should be negotiating your deals. Negotiate them, have fun with them, go back and forth. It should be enjoyable for your seller to be able to negotiate these deals. Don't just get lazy and do a highest and best every time. But if you get 3 or more, this is what you do and just put it in there. So offer price. Well, what does the seller want? If seller would like to have a rent back, you could put that in there. Seller would like to have 30 days to rent back with rent free. That's a perk for a seller. Good. There's money there. There's monetary value to that. Is the buyer willing to buy it as is? And if buyer is, are they willing to remove it? Remove the contingency with the CR up front. That's a big one because, they can still do their inspections and stuff. That's fine, but that's for their own knowledge. If they back out, they lose their deposit. What's the most important thing we're trying to do here? If we're going to lock this under contract, typically buyers have more rights to back out of a contract and get their deposit back than a seller does to get to keep it, unless a buyer defaults on something. So we want to make sure that if that's a negotiating tool, if it's that good of a property, that they release that contingency up front so that if they back out, seller gets to keep that money. We want it in writing. So that's a monetary value right there. Please reply back to this email with your highest and best terms and put your highest and best in an amendment. In California, we have amendments. For those of you in Idaho, you don't have amendments. You just do an addendum. All right, and make sure you can put it in there, just write it in there. They're just changing the terms of the original offer. If no changes to be made, simply reply back to this email. And that's it. Personal property is not included in the sale of this property, i.e. fireplace, mantle in the living room, or personal property. So that was the specific, this property. Let's see, highest and best due back. Gotta have a due date. Because if you're going to be sending in an email like this, you must have a due date. Otherwise, you're just leaving it open. If there's no due date, you don't have any agreements here. So you got to have that due date in there. All right, and thank you. So anything else you want to add in there, you can add in this email. But we started doing this a lot when we had a lot of offers to choose from, just too many to sift through. This is a great way to just see who's in this. Let's get our best offers in and not have to worry about going. Then we just take our best offers and just negotiate with those. So, all right, so that's the 3 methods. Now questions on each 3. Let's break it down. Who's got questions on the 3 methods? Or are you good? You ready to take these and go? While you guys are trying to stir up your questions, I'm going to throw each method inside of the group chat. You guys can, there is the Eisenhower, also known as the acronym method, and they're not exactly the same. They're a little bit different between the Eisenhower model. And by the way, that's Brian Eisenhower. Check out his coaching, check out his website. He has lots of coaching content in there for you to use. And then I'm also going to give you a freebie little mirror and matching PDF as well. So all those are downloadable right there inside of the group chat. Download them, use them. Again, use them to show and teach your clients, your buyers and your sellers, why you're the expert, why you understand this stuff, what separates you from others. Show it to them. Make sure they know what they're doing. Make sure they know what you're doing.
I had a question on the acronym method.
Yeah.
Is there a way to work it backwards as the seller, or is that primarily for buyers?
Totally. Let me pull that one up real quick. So yeah, if you're working it backwards for the seller, you're going to be the one. I mean, no matter what, the reason why it starts with the buyer is because why? You're going to be getting an offer. And so, but if you get an offer that's lower, then yeah, you're going to work it backwards. It's almost going to be like this though, is what is the target price your seller wants to get to? Right? And then you can use the percentage to go reverse order. Use the percentage to say, okay, so I want to make sure I don't go any lower than 50,000. Okay. So I'm going to come in at, 90, whatever that is, 95 opposite direction, 85, 75. So you're just going to counter in a way to try to get them up above the 50, but your goal is to win. So your goal is to get above the 50. But yeah, you can totally use it in the opposite direction. This is kind of what they did right here, but there was really, it's not actually a percentage. So you'd want to try to do a percentage on it to that, or, actually use a different number like that. So it kind of looks like, okay, this is pretty far up there. Oh, here's one thing I forgot on this though. Let's see. Also with your final 100% offer, try to throw in a non-monetary item that you may not care about as much to show that you're at your limit. So if I'm the seller and I'm at my limit and I come in and my last percentage ends up being 51,350, but hey, I'll throw in the spa for free. I'll throw in the tractor for free. No monetary value given to the tractor because that'll screw up your financing. So no value given to the tractor, but I'm throwing it in for free. So you're throwing something else in there as, hey, I'm going to let you have this too. That's kind of a great way to kind of say, you know what, I'm at my bottom. All I have left is to give you something. How about the couch? Would you like the couch? I'll leave that coffee table. You know what I mean? Great question. Any other questions? You ready to go negotiate some deals? I hope so. Make sure you remember you are the expert. Teach your people you're working with that you're not just flying by the seat of your pants, that you know what you're doing, that things are happening, and read that book. I haven't read it in a while, so I actually forgot a lot of it. I'm glad I went back and started going through it today, because I'm like, hey, man, Chris Voss is good. So good. Read that book. All right, guys, have a great week. You got my email address, you got my number. Give me a call if you have any questions. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.